Welcome to Life Success. Why do you not feel motivated? And the CBT fix is all that actually works really to improve your situation of being productive. So really, this reframes the motivation using CBT. Motivation isn't about feeling you for that timing, and it's byproduct, but also in action. And pretty much we learn thought, feeling, behavior circle that really is the 3 practical CBT techniques that cognitive distortions really disturb. So this is what I mean by CBT circle. It helps us to change. So let's look at that. So probably you told yourself, I just need to get motivated, when really it's got nothing to do with that, right? It's all to do with the fact that it's the typical feeling that you just can't get out of bed, you just don't feel ready, you feel inspired up to a point, but you feel like, I just can't do it. And the waiting turns into another day. And that's what it feels like sometimes for me too. And it's a battlefield. And this is where this Atomic Habits book by James Clear really actually changes this perspective of making the habits happen instead of sitting on it. And he talks about behavior change. And that was interesting to read. So here's my tools for you guys. Here's an uncomfortable motivation that we struggle with and never show up first, but in today, using the actual CBT tools, we're going to learn. So instead, let's get into that. But hey, thank you for coming. And we're learning something new here when it comes to CBT. And if you're ready for something, let's get into it. Are you struggling to do a workout, a project, or just a simple thing, and you just can't get into it? This video is for you. So, we're going to cover in this video is obviously a lot of areas where it's a battlefield, right? And you just can't get yourself motivated. It's a thought pattern that we all have every day, starting a day, getting that habit, that 3 techniques that you need to start, and thought patterns that we quietly draining the whole concept of it. So let's get into that path. The motivation myth is actually simple, and the diagonal of it, motivation, goes towards action. Action then requires motivation. So, most of us were taught that motivation comes first. Well, yes and no. But realistically, in my opinion, as a psychologist, class as life coach, and then you feel inspired, then your act feels like it, then do it. So it all comes down to, the CBT flips that order. In cognitive behavior therapy, we look at this relationship between thoughts, feelings, and behavior. And then it turns into our behavior is the piece of the puzzle. And that piece is the most direct control. You can't force the feeling, but you can force a small action to change that situation. And the action is what actually generates the feeling of motivation, not the other way around. This is where the core idea behind it. Sometimes it's called behavioral activation. And that behavioral activation is which most well-researched CBT tool. And this is where the techniques follow motivation in a low mood. The same rule applies when you're actually depressed. This is why I've had to learn that for myself, and I've suffered from depression myself. I know how that feels. Well, I get it exactly how it is, and I'll teach you guys in a minute. But the thought, feeling, and action circle is what spins the wheel, as you could say. So really, the triangle or loop, as you could say, which I can actually have that on the screen for you, to understand why waiting for motivation doesn't do any justice. It backfires, right? And we need to look at the CBT circle. Thoughts, here's what that looks like. When motivation pretty much stales out and thought, I don't feel like doing it at all right now. Feeling heaviness, resistance, maybe a little bit of guilt. Behavior, you avoid the task completely. And new thoughts, see, I really am unmotivated and lazy and behind. I struggle. I don't know how to get, same with exercising. It's really hard, eh? And the last thought that loops and the right back and makes the next round even harder. And that circle feeds itself, and the only place to really change that is interrupting it. Isn't your thoughts or feelings, it's because those hard to control directly. It is the behavior step. Change the behavior, even slightly, the thought and feelings will follow and start to shift. And then things change dramatically. So really, because those things really shift the whole concept when you really look at the concept of the techniques for motivation. So really, technique 1, behavioral activation. Technique 2 is challenge. I don't feel it right now, thought. And then visualize splitting the whole concept of the screen. Change your whole concept in your mind. And then when you really have the technique 3, the 5-minute rule. Commit to just 5 minutes of the task if you can, especially if it's just a simple walk every day. It's hard, even you're in the winter time. I know it sucks, especially if it's wet and cold and miserable. It's not a simple thing, is it? And section 4 is where I'm saying is the thought is killing the motivational problem. So really, the distortion is really all coming down to seeing things in a different perspective. And I know that it's a real challenge. Motivation isn't something to find, it's something you build. So building that circle. And one small action at a time, and now you will have the CBT tools to start building it today. If you ever want to go deeper, I've put all of this together for you, and I can actually send you a message if you want any more helpful tools. You can follow my blog. I post stuff on there quite regularly about motivation and about a lot of these tools of CBT. Now, I am here as a life coach to many people and help people overcome many things. And if it's your goal to actually improve on yourself today, follow me on Instagram and Facebook and wherever you find me. And I will see you on the next episode. Thanks for joining me, and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.